It is officially time to tell you all my secret. Welcome to the announcement video, guys. It is finally time to share with you all what I've been hiding. I'm so excited. I'm not going to drag this out. I'm going to tell you what it is and then I'm going to explain what it is. It's official! Guys, I am a published author! I wrote a book! I'm holding two because this is the hardcover and this is the paperback. The book is called Recovery Through Poetry by Bernadette Kirwan. And that's the secret I've been keeping, guys. I'm a published author! What is this? To cut a long story short, before I was ever a content creator, I was an English teacher and a writer, and I still am. For the last 7 or so years, I've been writing poetry on and off for that whole time. And a year ago, I decided that's it. It was time to knuckle down, collate this into a body of work, and publish my first book. In summary, this book is about child abuse. But there is a lot more to it than just that. Without ruining it for you, I'm going to tell you what the 3 parts that it's divided into are all about. Part 1. So basically the book is divided into 3 parts and the poems are collated into their collections accordingly. Part 1. Part 1 is called Abuse, and I'll read you the little opening for each one. Abuse. Acts of evil committed against mankind, where one is wrongly used, taken advantage of in time. And when one is a child, there is no greater crime. Part 1, Abuse, is basically about what I experienced growing up as a child. I've made no secret of the fact that I was abused growing up by both my mother and my stepdad. This book isn't exactly for children. It's definitely an adults-only book because I am exploring the abuse and the subsequent trauma that came from being brought up in an abusive household. Whether it be my mother's physical and emotional abuse or my stepdad's sexual and emotional abuse, I talk about everything. Each poem centers around a particular idea. For example, I have a poem called Dear Mum, about my relationship with my mum. I have another poem called 22, which is about the day when I was 22 that I ran away from home. And another called Abuse or Misuse, which is about me basically learning and understanding how to recognize abuse from the beginning. Anyone who unfortunately has had a similar experience to me will understand that actually it's not necessarily so straightforward. Which brings me to part 2, People and Places. People and places, the who and the where of the memories we create, which together can make something great. People and Places is about the people and the places where, with who and where, I was able to learn how to start recovering from my trauma. I have a few poems in there dedicated to the primary people in my life at that time, and a few, if you like, self-discovery poems where I start to really realize who I am without being through the vision of my mother's lens. And there are also quite a few poems in this section where I'm on a path to self-discovery, where I'm basically learning who I am without the influence of my mother, without being told what I'm supposed to be, and rather what I want to be. Which brings me to part 3, Life. Life, the condition of existence, filled with a myriad of lessons along journeys taken, that is, of course, until you reach your final destination. Life is the sum of it all. Life is about the lessons I learned after everything. Part 3 concludes with all the lessons that I think anyone who was unfortunately a victim of child abuse could greatly benefit from. I think it's important, at least to me, to really emphasize that this book, although for a lot of the poems it can be quite sad and quite, you know, maybe in terms of secondhand trauma, quite hurtful, quite depressing, I'll admit. But I really want to draw attention to the fact that this book is meant to be in collection a message of hope. By the end of this book, this is meant to be my stories for you. For anyone out there who has had the unfortunate circumstances of being abused growing up, or maybe even as an adult. And by the end of this book, I hope you realize that whilst, yes, we are victims of child abuse, being a victim isn't all that you are. It doesn't have to encompass everything about you. You can flip the script and turn your victimhood into your victorhood. You can become your own victor. So many of us wait for somebody to save us, to rescue us, when in fact a lot of us end up having to rescue ourselves. I talk about this so much, or rather I write about this so much. I felt it was so important to share these lessons with the world because I know how much of a struggle it is to recover from child abuse, or abuse in general. And altogether, these 3 parts I'm hoping encompass a very comforting, a very therapeutic approach to understanding anything harmful, hurtful that you may have been through. I am a first-time author. I am a self-published author. Where can you get it? The link is in my bio. I'll make sure it's in my bio across all platforms. I'll link it in the description box down below. Or you could just as easily type Recovery Through Poetry by Bernadette Kirwan into the search engine, that is. And like I mentioned, there's a hardcover and a paperback. Obviously, the hardcover is a much better quality, but unfortunately, that means it comes at a higher cost. Roughly speaking, the hardcover is being sold for $29.99 USD and the paperback for $15.99 USD. The prices will vary according to where you're buying it from in the world. I know it's a lot cheaper to buy the hardcover in America than versus Australia, for example. Yes, I had to buy my own books, but just a heads up, I am not the supplier, I'm just the author. So I have no control over how and when you get these. But so far, when I've ordered these books via Amazon, they've done pretty well. The paperback, I really do wish it was that little bit better quality because I've noticed that the cover can kind of age quickly. But I guess that's the beauty of being able to also have a hardcover. To sum this all up, I want to talk about 3 things. First, what's my goal with all of this? I've already touched on this briefly, and I also put this in my bio everywhere that I can. But I really want to be a part of The Voice, and there is already a wonderful voice out there, but I want to be a part of it and do what I can to help foster the change around the topic of child abuse. There are also some references in here to my cultures, and I also therefore want in my goal to be a part of The Voice that's also fostering change around the topic of cultural diversity. I really hope that one day when I'm dying that this, my writing, is my legacy. Number 2, I want to explain what the cover means. So essentially, it's a teacup, but it's drawn as a Middle Eastern style teacup. I love tea. And I don't only love it for its flavor, for its taste, but I also love it for the little nuances, the little memories associated with tea throughout my life. I know that might sound really odd to a lot of you, but I make some references to that in my poems throughout the book. So hopefully what I just said will make sense when you read it. And I decided I wanted to honor my heritage on the front. So if you look closely in the middle, running across the center is an Irish symbol, a Celtic knot. And so of course the Celtic knot is to represent my Irish heritage. And also I believe the Celtic knot actually represents or symbolizes, if you like, the eternity of life or eternity in general. And then above that row of Celtic knots to the left and then below it to the right are olive branches. The olive branches, of course, referencing my Palestinian heritage. I also love that they're very much known for being a symbol of peace, which is so beautiful. Because if you think about it, when you go through all my stories, my lessons in these poems, I found my peace in the end. And above that row of Celtic knots, but this time to the right and then below to the left, is an image of a wattle bush, which is a native plant to Australia. Now, culturally, I feel very much like my parents' cultures. I feel very Irish and Palestinian. But I'm born and raised in Australia. Australia gave my family their second home, gave them a safe haven from what they left. And in turn, it's given me my life too. This country has housed me and my family through a lot of beautiful moments. And I wanted to honor that too. I didn't want to leave that out. And so my wonderful illustrator took all my ideas, put it together and came up with what I feel is the most beautiful cover that I could have ever asked for. To finish up, I just want to say thank you, a massive thank you. In an interview I did a couple of years ago that I shared on here as well, I said in there that I feel like a lot of people need to understand what it's like for a content creator like myself to have grown up without a voice, where you're in an environment where your voice is taken from you, and then all of a sudden you become a content creator or something of the like, and all of a sudden you have this beautiful community, this audience that gives you your voice back. And for that, I will always be so grateful. I will always be so thankful. You guys gave me my voice back. My family that saved me and took me in gave me my life back. But it was you guys that gave me my voice, gave me the ability to share my story, and also to not just share it, but also use it to help others. So thank you so much to everyone who has been a part of this journey and in self-discovery, in healing, in recovery. And for anyone who does buy this book, I have a little surprise at the end for you guys. guys, a little 2-page dedication to you all. Just something to say thank you. And an extra special thank you to, first of all, my grandparents, to whom, by the way, this book is actually dedicated to. They have housed me in such a way that without this would not have been possible. I essentially owe them my whole life and everything good that comes of it. Which then segues to a little shout out for my dad. My dad is the one person in my life that has never given up on me. And my dad is the person who took me out of that house that day. Well, actually, I took myself out and went to university, but he met me at university on his motorbike, picked me up, put all my little satchel, little rucksack of belongings on the back, put me on the motorbike, rode over the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which was so perfect, so cinematic for me at the time. Took me home to my grandparents and gave me my safe haven, my second chance at life. If you're watching this, thank you, Dad. I love you very much. And of course, to the 3 people that I also acknowledge in the book, the 3 people that made this at all possible. Yes, I wrote the book, but there are also people that help you actually bring it all to life. First, to my editor, Philip. Without him, the holistic nature that this book is now in, which I adore, would never have happened. It was all his idea. So thank you for taking on my book and for editing it for me. To my illustrator, Ismail, thank you for being everything I needed in an artist, in an illustrator. He is the illustrator of not only the front cover, but all the drawings within the book, even the little ones at the bottom. He has worked tirelessly without fail, bringing every single one of my ideas to life. The aesthetics of this could not have been possible without him. And finally, to my amazing partner, Musa. Musa is my book designer. He took it upon himself to save me so much money because it was an expensive process to pay for. To download the programs required and then to learn how to use them in order to lay out the inside and the outside of my book. This entire layout is thanks to him. And there is no one that has spent as many nights, as many countless hours on trying to meticulously lay this out perfectly. This book looks the way that it does in this final pristine condition because of all his efforts, and I really truly could not have done this without him. Love you! This video has ended up a lot longer than I was anticipating, and I really hope you guys have made it to the end. But to officially conclude, I thought, why not indulge you guys? I hope I'm not being too presumptuous. Indulge you guys in a little bit of a reading. Perhaps it's only fitting to read the first poem that opens up the book, called Poetic Justice. Seeing as these are poems and I'm feeling like some sense of justice comes from it, I thought it was a fitting title. It's basically like a preface, but in a poem for you all. So I'm going to read it, and then if any of you end up buying this and reading it, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'm using poetic justice to solve what I entrusted in the woman I called mother, but instead wished I was some other type of unborn being. She would have made me too if Grandad hadn't stopped her seeing. See, she didn't want a daughter because she wasn't mentally ready for the order that life would provide the day I did arrive. I hope one day, though, she will understand, at least to the degree I had to withstand, how her neglect nearly ruined me. But thankfully it grew in me, poetic justice in a mind full of rhymes, because what she stole from me is time. And now I'm taking back what's mine, the health of my mind. Like I said, I promise this book is not all doom and gloom. It does progressively get happier and happier. If you do buy this book, thank you so much in advance. This feels like my life's work, and sharing it with you all feels like an absolute honor. So again, thank you so much. And if you buy it, please let me know what you think. Much love, everyone, and God bless. Mwah!